Alright, so today I want to introduce you to Patreon, and if you haven't heard of Patreon, it's no surprise. As a matter of fact, I've talked to quite a few people who've watched my videos on a regular basis and they've never heard of Patreon. As a matter of fact, unless you're really a diehard YouTuber, you may have not have heard of it, and I want to explain really what it is in this video. So I would say most people go to YouTube and they do kind of a generalized search. They're searching for some information or some entertainment, and sometimes they just randomly stumble on videos and they watch them, and I'd say that's probably where most of my views come from if you look in my analytics. And I'd say for most YouTubers it's pretty much the same, people just kind of stumbling into their videos and watching them. And then if you actually have viewers that enjoy your content, say for example you're really in love with Bobby here, the bamboo ball python around my neck, you want to see more of Bobby, you'll actually subscribe to my channel. And subscribing to the channel is, I would say, it really helps me because there's certain milestones that you really want to reach, especially a small channel. You want to reach 1,000 subscribers to get monetized, and then at certain levels, like at 30,000 subscribers, you actually can have channel memberships, and like you reach 100,000 and a lot of people come to you for sponsorships and things like that. So it's the subscribers, I don't directly get paid for them, but it's really a milestone for some of these things as far as the YouTube channel. And then I would say if you have really die-hard fans that have subscribed to your channel and they just really want to support you as a creator, they'll actually click the notification button. And if you click the notification bell when you're subscribed, actually what happens every time I post a video, you actually get notified. Especially, I would say I'm probably subscribed to like 600 channels. I'm subscribed to a lot of channels, and I probably only hit the bell on a handful of channels. And when those people actually release a video, I get an email that says, hey, this person actually released a video because I hit the bell. And let me tell you, if you hit the bell, you are a diehard subscriber. And Patreon is kind of the next level. There's a lot of people that have subscribed, they hit the bell, they watch every single video, but they want to do more for your channel, for you as a creator on this side of the camera making YouTube videos. And Patreon, when I first looked at Patreon, I wasn't completely sold on the whole idea of Patreon. Essentially what it is I can actually set up certain levels and you can support me financially on my channel. So pretty much the bottom level is $1 a month. You can actually set it up through PayPal and it's automatic. And I kind of had a problem with it because to me it's almost like I'm asking for free money, and a lot of creators are actually kind of justifying it this way. You're actually making free videos and people are actually paying you after the fact, after you've already made the videos. And that was kind of the hesitation. And then I really started looking into Patreon, and really the real true essence of Patreon is that in every single level you have some perks for pretty much it's kind of like a membership. You have the subscription, you're paying for the channel, and a lot of people say, all right, if you donate $10 a month, if you sign up for that, you'll get a free t-shirt. And some people are like, all right, if you donate $350 a month, I'm gonna fly out, me and Bobby, and I'm gonna visit you in person. And I started looking at that, and it's like I don't really have the money to invest in all these tiers. I really don't have the time to fly out with Bobby to actually visit you in person. So I kind of felt like I was stuck as far as getting into Patreon. And then I kind of had this idea of it's almost like the chicken and the egg, because you don't really have the money to give the perks, but unless you actually start Patreon, you can't get the ball rolling. So what I decided to do is I actually decided to set up Patreon at different levels. I have different tiers that you can invest in, and as far as I know, you can actually just do like a one-time donation of $1. It doesn't have to be a monthly thing. It's kind of interesting how it works. And then I was thinking, if I get actually enough revenue coming from Patreon, then I can actually use some of that money to offer some of the merchandise and everything else to some of my members. I've seen a lot of people doing kind of behind the scenes videos and all kinds of stuff. You go to their Patreon and it's pretty amazing how some of these people have it set up. And I thought, pretty much starting from scratch, right from the beginning, what I'm going to do is I'm going to set up Patreon, set up the tiers, even though there's really nothing on the tiers. And if you want to support me financially, you can start supporting me. And then I thought what I'd do is I'd put a little end screen screen on every single video listing all my Patreon supporters. I thought that would be kind of cool. So even though if you don't support me on Patreon, you can actually go to the very end of all my videos and you can actually see how many Patreon supporters I have. I thought that'd be pretty cool. So that's kind of where I'm going to start with Patreon, just to get the ball rolling, to see how things goes. See if anyone actually is willing to support me. As a matter of fact, I'd say I've been cranking out videos for, well, I have over 500 videos for the last 500 days. I've been putting out daily videos day after day. It's been pretty amazing how many videos and how much work it's actually taken to put out those videos. But I would say over that whole time, if you've probably been watching my channel, you've probably noticed that the quality of my videos has drastically improved over the last few months, and that is because I started making money on YouTube ads off the ad revenue, and I'm essentially taking all that money, reinvesting it back into YouTube, because I'm really serious about YouTube. I want to be a full-time professional YouTuber at some point. I'm not there yet, but I'm slowly working my way towards it. So essentially all the money that I make on the YouTube ads, I'm putting it back into equipment to improve my videos. And let me tell you, it hasn't been cheap. I've invested in some cameras and some lenses, some tripods and studio lighting. I've been doing some green screen stuff. Actually just upgraded my laptop to a really high-end laptop so I can run Adobe Premiere Pro. It takes some really strong processing power to actually run that software. Paying a monthly fee to actually I guess you'd say rent the Adobe Premiere Pro software. They don't actually sell you the software anymore. They get you for the monthly fee, and you're paying for the software pretty much for the rest of your life. It's pretty incredible. So all that it's been a pretty crazy ride. And if you want to support me on Patreon, I want to put a link in the description below, and I'm also going to put you on the end screens on every video. So another thing I kind of wanted to update you on besides Patreon is that I actually have a reptile show I'm going to do here in, I think it's about 4 weeks now. It's October 19th and 20th. 2019. It's the Denver Repticon. I'll be there with a whole table full of ball python hatchlings, and I hope to see you there. It's always a good time. And the funny thing is that a lot of people have commented on my video. They say, I like how you don't try to sell your snakes on the videos. And as a matter of fact, when I go to a reptile show, I don't really think about selling snakes. It's kind of an afterthought. Personally, I would rather just keep all my snakes if I had the room. But you know, as a breeder, you really have to sell some to make room for the snakes from the next year. I don't know what Bobby's doing here. He's trying to choke me out. So what I'm going to do is today I think I have probably close to 60 or 65 snakes that I'm actually going to bring to the show. And I was actually going through all my snakes. I was actually going to do an assist feeding video, and quite a few people have actually asked for me to show how to assist feed ball python hatchlings that won't eat. And finally, it's been a few weeks, I actually got every single hatchling to eat at least 2 meals, which is pretty cool. No assist feeding this year. Last year, I think I had like 6 or 7 that I had to assist feed, and some of them I really struggled with. Some of them were extremely small hatchlings. So no assist feeding videos this year. And what I'm going to do now is I'm actually going to jump over to my hatchlings, and I want to figure out the males and the females. I want to throw some snake content into this video so you have some interest. I always try to at least give you some kind of interesting snake content on every single video. And I've gone through maybe 20, 25 hatchlings, figured out the males and females, but I really like to wait until they get some size to them before I actually probe them and figure out which are which. And most of these snakes, I would say, are going to be for sale at the shows. So if you're actually thinking about going to this next show in about 4 weeks, I'll definitely have some of these hatchlings there. And whatever doesn't sell at the show, I'll definitely be selling online and shipping them FedEx straight to your door, but I actually prefer to ship to your local FedEx center so they don't really get beat up in the mail. So let's jump over and check out some hatchlings. Alright, so I'm going to start with just this normal ball python, and I'd say this is probably the cheapest snake that's going to be at my show in the display. This is essentially the cheapest pet snake. These are always the most popular. Everybody's always looking for a normal as a pet. These are really cool. I wish I could just keep them all. It's interesting. His pattern looks a little bit jumbled up compared to a normal, but you can kind of see he still has a couple alien heads here. I would say it's pretty typical of the normal normals can be pretty variable. And now he's running a little bit, which is not what you want when you're probing a snake. Essentially what I use this probe kit, and I use the smallest probe in the kit, and then I use like a personal lubricating jelly, just any kind of water-based lubricant, and I just put a little bit on the probe, and there goes my snake. And then what I do is I actually take the probe and I put it in the pocket of the tail. So you kind of have to be careful when you're doing this for the first time, and you actually it really depends on how you hold the snake and how relaxed the snake is too. So a lot of times if they're like taking off and running like this, it's a little bit harder, and sometimes you just kind of have to hold their head so they don't actually start running. It's all in really how you actually hold and position. Oh, that was something else. Oh my. All right, so that almost never happens. That happens maybe once a year. Oh my goodness. God. Oh my goodness, that was crazy. This snake is going nuts, peeing all over the place. all right, let's get another paper towel. Let's try this again. Whoa. This is not exactly as smooth as I would hope it would be actually working with this ball python hatchling. all right. Let's see if we can do it again. So essentially, let's see, where were we? Let's go back to probing a ball python. Essentially what you do is you put the probe right in the tail right here, and if it goes in really deep like that, it is a male. So take a look at how deep that probe went in. It went in way deep. So this is a male ball python after he peed all over me. That is pretty funny. All right, so that snake was named Tiger. That is a crazy snake. And I actually just put a little label right here. I put it right on the display. I actually put stickers on this year instead of the magnetic tape on most of them, so they actually don't come off and I don't mix them up. All right, so here's the next snake. This is a beautiful spider. It looks like he's starting to go into shed a little bit pink, but these spiders are really awesome. You can see on these spiders maybe just a little bit of a shake on the head as far as kind of a really slight head wobble. Nothing really severe. Usually if they're down on the ground, there's no problems at all. And what I did is actually wiped off the gel from the probe and put some more gel on it just to make sure there's nothing between the two snakes. And let's see on this one if it's a male or a female. This is actually a spider, 100% het pied, and I believe these are 50% het caramel albino as well. And this one actually, if you can see how far that went in, all the way that far, that is definitely a male. All right, so here's another spider. This is actually my only year that I actually produced some of these spiders. These are really beautiful. And it's interesting, some of the spiders have more or less white coming up the sides, pretty much a part of the trait. It almost looks like calico, but if it actually had calico in there, it would actually bring the white all the way up the side. The calico spiders look really crazy. And these, I would say there's nothing really extra in this. It's just one codominant gene, so you breed this to something else. 50% of the babies come out spiders, and I'm pretty much just producing just a few spiders. I'm not really producing a whole lot because there's just a few people that said they wanted some spiders, but you know, there's a lot of people against it because of the head wobble. And if you look at the head wobble on this one, not really any at all. Take a look at that. It is a pretty stable spider. Some of them have a little more head wobble than others. This one looks pretty good. So I'm gonna take a look at this one, see if it's a male or a female. So far, we've only had 2 males, and you know, people are usually looking for the females to actually lay the eggs. And this one is another male, way far in there. I can't believe 3 out of 3 were actually males. All right, so here's another one. This one actually looks completely normal, but it is 100% het for pied. And this one is named Houdini, and it's also 50% het caramel albino, so there's a 50% chance this actually carries the caramel albino gene. I actually produced this from my big female, 100% het caramel albino female. She laid a whole bunch of eggs. This one didn't get any other genes, and it's just pretty much just a straight normal. And the interesting thing is is you can kind of see almost the het pied markers coming down, and sometimes you actually see these kind of broken up black lines along the belly. Sometimes it'll be like a really strong black, which is a really strong indicator that it's het pied, and we know 100% sure it's het pied from the pairing. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to see if this is a male or a female. And it doesn't look like it's running, so it might be really easy. As a matter of fact, I talked to a veterinarian that specializes in snakes, and I know some people actually pop the hemipines. And take a look at this. It's only going in just a tiny little bit. That is definitely a female. And anyway, my vet said that, you know, some people actually hold the snake like this and then invert the hemipines, kind of pop it right here. And she said to actually never do that because it can hurt the snake permanently, especially with hatchlings, especially if you don't know what you're doing. You have to press really hard. And especially if you actually have a female, then you're trying real hard to pop out the hemipines, which actually don't exist. So she said you should always use a probe when you're determining the males from the females. And it's kind of interesting. This is kind of what I was talking about here with the het pied. You kind of see this line right down the side of the belly. And a lot of them, that solid line down the belly, you can see that is a really strong het pied marker right there. And sometimes that solid line will continue throughout much of the belly on the snake on a lot of the het pieds. Here's another one. We named this one Coco, and look at how much bigger this one is. It's interesting. Some of them eat a lot better when they're hatchlings. As a matter of fact, my first hatchlings are really super beefy. They're actually on small rats. They've moved from live mice over to frozen thawed mice and over to a live rat, and actually they're probably to the point where they could probably do pretty much a frozen thawed anything when they get this big. This is probably the perfect size to sell at a show because it's big enough to be, you know, away from having to feed them the live mice, which is really necessary when they're young, and they get to this point and they'll eat pretty much anything. This guy is nice and big and chunky. And this one is pretty much the same as the other one. 100% het pied, 50% het caramel albino. And this is kind of tricky. You just push it in just a little bit, in and out, in and out. And this is another female, so that is pretty awesome. Everybody's always looking for the females. Nice looking snake. So here's another one. We named this one Slinky. Pretty much came from the same pairing. This one's 100% het pied, 50% het caramel albino. And you can kind of see interesting tracks along the belly on this one. And you can definitely tell, especially right down here, that it's het pied. The thing that's interesting about this one is it's really dark. It's interesting how some normals are a lot brighter and some are a lot darker. It's really interesting. So we're going to figure out the male, if it's male or female on this one. And I'm thinking if you're looking for really low-end snakes, this is a really good year because next year, well, actually, next year I'll have some pretty good combos. But the following year, I'm actually investing in a 6-gene male. I'm going to breed with a lot of my females. And that should probably produce hardly any normals at all. And let's see, take a look at this one. This one is actually definitely a male. That is a male. So we named this one Thor. This is a bamboo, one of Bobby's babies. Really beautiful bamboo. And this one actually is not het for anything. I'd say it's a really busy pattern. Sometimes they can be really reduced, and sometimes when they're like this, they can be really crazy. This one actually, for some reason, these little bamboos hatched out so incredibly small. They were like the smallest snakes of the entire year, and they were really slow to start. Believe it or not, this one's already had 5 meals, and it's still pretty small. But usually once they get a little bit of size to them, and you start getting them on some decent size rodents, they can grow really super fast. And we'll see if this one is a male or a female. I was actually thinking about holding back a female bamboo, but I got so much stuff I want to hold back, I don't even know if I can hold back the stuff that I want to hold back without actually having to buy another rack or something, or expensive. I don't know, it's kind of crazy. Let's see what this one is. And sometimes when they're small like this, it's really hard to actually probe them, but I'm sure this one's probably big enough now. When it was really small, I would say it was almost impossible. He's still a really small snake, really skinny. Definitely on food now every time, eats every time, but I've just been feeding him pretty much once a week. I don't really feed him more than once a week. And let's see if I can actually get this guy to actually probe out here. This one is definitely a male. This is a beautiful male. This is like Bobby Jr. right here, a beautiful male bamboo. That thing is awesome. All right, here's another bamboo. This one is just straight bamboo, no other genes. We named this one Lefty. And Lefty is kind of interesting, has some really crazy pattern on the top, really high contrast up on the top, but it's really reduced compared to that other one. You can see it's kind of wiped out on the sides of the snake. Not quite as busy on the sides. Still a really good looking snake. The bamboos, I'd say, probably are one of the best standalone morphs besides the spiders. I'd say the spiders and the bamboos are probably head to head. I don't know, I think maybe the bamboos could probably win out over a spider even without the head wobble. This thing is really awesome. So we're gonna see if this is a male or female, and I'm still not sure if I actually want to keep. If I actually had a female, I could breed Bobby back to a female and get a super bamboo, and then if I bred that to anything, it would actually, all the babies would be bamboo, and I could get a whole clutch of bamboos, which would be pretty awesome. And this one looks like it's probing out as a female. I don't know if I want to keep this one or not. Probably not. I actually have, I actually bred my albino pied to a clown, and I got 6 triple hets albino pied clowns, and that's pretty much going to be most of my holdbacks for this year. And then I also have a lesser scaleless head, and then I actually have a super pastel pinstripe 100% head desert ghost. I'm gonna actually keep all those back, so probably won't have room for another holdback. All right, so here's another bamboo. This one we named Sparky, and Sparky is lagging way behind. He's actually only had 3 meals so far. It's been really tough getting some of these bamboos on food. As a matter of fact, I think I have another bamboo that I was considering assist feeding, and just ate his first 2 meals like in the last week and a half. I thought for sure I was gonna have to assist feed. That one. So skinny, couldn't believe it. And then usually once they eat their first few meals, then it's no problem at all to get them on food and get them going. But the first meals, sometimes they get a little defensive and they actually try to attack their food instead of eating it, and that's where they get confused. And that's really when the only time you really have to assist feed. And assist feeding is essentially taking like a frozen thawed or fresh killed mouse and putting it in the mouth of the snake and kind of holding it there, and hopefully they'll sink their teeth into it and eat it. And I'd say it's one of the most difficult things is trying to actually assist feed a snake and to actually do it right and without actually having them spit the rodent out. I've actually had some snakes where I tried to assist feed over and over and over. It just would not. They finally did. I had some really super small albinos last year that I had to assist feed multiple times. And let's see, on this one, it looks like this one. Oh. So in some of these, the problem is the snake is so small and the tail pocket is not really that big. This one, I'd say, is probably on, I'd say it's a male. This one is definitely a male. A female wouldn't go in that far. So this is kind of another mini Bobby here. This guy's starting to take off. That is a really beautiful snake. All right, so here's another one. This one is a normal, completely normal, no hets or anything. This is probably gonna be one of the first ones that sell at the show. These normals are always really hot. They're super cheap too, really beautiful looking. As a matter of fact, some people come up to my table and they're like, out of all those snakes, I like this one the best, the normal. That's kind of funny. And this one is actually named Porky, even though he's super skinny. This is another one, believe it or not, this one's actually had 4 meals. Still looks really skinny, and the problem is a lot of these had a hard time actually starting out as far as feeding, and they got kind of left behind, and then now they're trying to catch up. But you can definitely see the belly on a complete normal. It doesn't really have the het pied tracks as strong as the other ones. This one, I don't know, it almost kind of fool you on some of these if you take a look at the belly on this one. I don't know, sometimes the belly is not 100% sure way to actually tell if it's het pied or not. It's essentially up to the breeder to tell you based on the pairing of the snakes. And some of these are so small, it's really hard to actually probe them. And this one's really tightening up. Oh. All right, buddy, here we go. And it's all in the technique. You really got to hold their heads so they don't run. That's the big thing here. And sometimes it can be pretty challenging to actually do this with the probe versus popping. It seems like popping the hemipines out are a lot easier, but you really need to know what you're doing. You need to have the practice and the experience. And I'm actually not comfortable enough to actually pop out the hemipines myself. I'm always afraid that I'm going to actually hurt the snake. And this one is definitely a little runner. You can always tell that sometimes it's not as easy as it looks on camera when people actually probe these snakes. Sometimes the snake starts running and it's a little bit difficult. Let's see if I can actually get this one here. This one is definitely, oh. This is definitely a female, a really small female. This one really needs to catch up. All right, so I thought I'd skip ahead to this bamboo, and probably this will be the last one. This is, we call them Fang. It's got a really, kind of a really crazy pattern on this one. This one, I really like how it comes down the sides. It kind of has this extra, almost all the way down. You can almost see the alien heads all the way down on this one. He's got some really nice weight on this one too. He's been eating really good, looking really beautiful. That is a stunner right there. Let's see if this one is a male or a female. And it looks like he's kind of fired up, like he's going to take a bite out of something here. All right, let's see. He's a little jumpy too. I think he's a little ticklish here in the tail. Oh, let's see. You can definitely tell I have a lot of bamboos this year. This one is definitely a male. Another mini Bobby. All right, so it is time for the question of the day. And Raven Wolf asks, what is a good weight to keep your adult male ball python breeders at? And that is a very good question. As a matter of fact, Bobby here around my neck, he's a male bamboo. He's actually born in 2013, so he's got some age to him, and I'd say most males don't actually get this big. As a matter of fact, I just threw him on the scale, and he's coming in at 2,500 grams. He's a monster. I'd say for a female, this would be awesome. You could get a lot of eggs out of a big female like this, but as a male, I would say he's a little bit overweight. I'd say a lot of people actually keep their males a little bit smaller. But the funny thing is, when I first got Bobby, he would eat like no other snake. Bamboos usually have a really strong appetite, and of course if you feed them a lot, they grow really fast. And then I found out that it's really not good to have breeders that are really that big, especially if you're breeding them with like entry-level females that are like 1,500 grams. You really don't want your males to be too much bigger than your females. I would say most breeders probably try to keep them between, 1,000 to 1,500 grams, maybe 2,000 max. I would say most breeders don't feed their males and get them up to a size like Bobby here. He is a pretty big male. And I would say as far as breeding, I actually bred my smallest male I started breeding them at 400 grams, which is pretty amazing. It was my scaleless head. When I first got into the scaleless head project, I bought them and I really kind of wanted to rush the project to move that project along. And it was funny because I was putting them on snakes that were almost 5,000 grams. So you can imagine the snake was like 10% the weight of the females. It looked kind of funny putting this little worm on this big snake. It was a really weird pairing, and it actually worked. I couldn't believe that small snake would actually breed the bigger females. But I think if you do it the other way around, the males can get a little bit lazy, and they tend not to be as interested in the females when they get really big, like Bobby here is choking me out again. Crazy snake. Bobby, he's a pretty cool ball python. So that is pretty much it. Thanks for watching, and I will see you next time.